Stand by my side in the grave, save my soul, come to save. With these tears I have no fear that you will be there for me. My Mawla, my Sultan, Hussein, you're my Quran. My Mawla, my Sultan, Hussein, you're my Quran. Even from my grave I'm calling your name, Hussein.
أفلح من أعادها ثالثة.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
على حب القاسم بن الحسن أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن ربكم الله الذي خلق السماوات والأرض في 6 أيام ثم استوى على العرش. يغشي الليل النهار يطلبه حثيثا يغشي الليل النهار يطلبه حثيثا والشمس والقمر والنجوم مسخرات بأمره ألا له الخلق والأمر تبارك الله رب العالمين. ادعوا ربكم تضرعا وخفيا إن رحمة الله قريب من المحسنين. وهو الذي يرسل الرياح بشرا بين يدي رحمته حتى إذا أقلت سحابا ثقالا سقناه لبلد ميت فأنزلنا به الماء فأخرجنا به من كل الثمرات كذلك نخرج الموتى لعلكم تذكرون. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. عطروا مجالسكم بذكر الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أحسن الله إليكم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أزور سيدي ومولاي ومعتمدي ورجائي ذخري وذخيرتي في آخرتي ودنياي نور العينين وسيد الكونين أبا عبد الله الحسين. السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفوة الله. السلام عليك يا وارث نوح النبي الله. السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله. السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله. السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله. السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله. السلام عليك يا وارث أمير المؤمنين عليه السلام. السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى. السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء. السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور.
أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين، فلعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك، ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأصلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة، لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها، ولم تلبسك من مدلهمات ثيابها. وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين، وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرضي الزكي الهادي المهدي، وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وأعلام الهدى والعروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا. وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله أني بكم مؤمن وبإيابكم موقن بشرائع ديني وخواتيم عملي، وقلبي لقلبكم سلم وأمري لأمركم متبع. صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم. بأبي أنت وأمي يا ابن رسول الله، بأبي أنت وأمي يا أبا عبد الله، لقد عظمت الرزية وجلت المصيبة بك علينا وعلى جميع أهل السماوات والأرض. فلعن الله أمة أسرجت وألجمت وتهيأت لقتالك. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، قصدت حرمك وأتيت إلى مشهدك، أسأل الله بالشأن الذي لك عنده وبالمحل الذي لك لديه أن يصلي على محمد وآل محمد، وأن يجعلني معكم في الدنيا والآخرة. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.
أحسن. طيب الله ينفعك سيد. Thank you so much. So just a very quick reminder, I see some new faces here, so just reminders about the rules. If you're sitting on the chairs and the chair, you are allowed to take off your mask. If you're walking, you have to keep it all the time, inshallah. When you're leaving, please keep 2 meters distance between each other. Also, please keep seated at the end of the majlis. Someone will be passing by with a garbage bag and hand sanitizer to take from you tissues and stuff before leaving. Also, just a quick announcement that if anyone wants to sponsor any nights or donate, you can reach out to me directly, or for the sisters, they can reach out to Zainab Merai, or you can just directly send us an email. Our email is on the banner here. So now please help me welcome our dear Shaykh, Shaykh Shafiq Hudda, with a loud salawat. من أعادها ثانية.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
ثالثة بأعلى الأصوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Thank you so much. I hope I didn't mess it up.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل، نعم المولى ونعم النصير. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، خالق السماوات والأرض، إلها واحدا أحدا صمدا لم يتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، خاتم النبيين، رحمة للعالمين، طه وياسين بالقاسم محمد. وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين المنتجبين. ورحمة الله على محبيهم، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم وقاتليهم وغاصب حقوق حقهم ومنكر فضائلهم أجمعين من يومنا هذا إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم: إن الحسين مصباح الهدى وسفينة النجاة. صلوات الله محمد وآل محمد. عظم الله وجورنا وجوركم بمصابنا بالحسين عليه السلام. I begin by extending my condolences to the Imam of the time, Imam al-Hujjah, to the Mu'mineen all over the world who are facing this sadness, to all of you and your families and your near ones and your dear ones, to the household of the Prophet, as we mark these Ayyam-e-Shahadat of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. My sisters, my brothers, youngsters, elders, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In our conclusion discussion yesterday of family life and how Islam develops the family by developing the self first, then to our family, to our communities, there's just two very, very quick points I wanted to close with. And I know that yesterday was supposed to be the beginning part of our discussion on the 12th Imam, which we will inshallah be doing today, and a little bit of science and technology and how it relates to the Imam in tomorrow's discussion. And then inshallah on Laylatul Ashur on Saturday, we will pretty well try and summarize everything. So I'm giving you these next, these 3 nights, including tonight, as the overview of what we will be trying to achieve. The ayat of the Quran Majid that I was quoting yesterday from Surah Al-Mubarakah Bani Israel is وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Allah Ta'ala decrees that you worship none other than Him and you be good to your parents. And the ayat of the Quran mentions that if one of them or both of them become old, they are elderly, then فَقُلْ وَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا أُفٍّ وَلَا تَنْهَرْهُمَا, then speak to them gently. But you know, some of the reciters, readers of the Holy Quran have taken this out of context and said that, okay, only if they get old I can't yell at them. Only if they get old I can't do this. If they're young, then it's okay if I raise my voice, if I say whatever I have to say. And of course, it applies throughout. It's just that the extra emphasis is there when they get old. The second thing that I did not clarify when I was speaking about these rights and obligations and what is the responsibility of the youngsters, the youths, or the child to the parents. The only time that we are permitted to disobey the parents, and again, this cannot be done in a harsh way, this cannot be done in a mean way, but the only time that we have actually got permission from the Prophet that we can disobey a parent is when they are insisting or they're forcing us or they're telling us to do something haram. to do something that is forbidden. That is the exception to the rule. So yesterday we were talking about the rule, but of course every rules have got exceptions. So this is the exception to that rule. When they're telling us to do something haram, something against the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then that is the only time that we can actually disobey them. One salawat upon Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, please. As we continue our overall discussion on the self, the building of the complete self, how Islam is making sure that we try to go on the right path, we become as best as we can. And you've noticed I've tried to avoid the use of the word perfection. Islam ideally wants to create a perfect person. We are insan, we may fall short, but the goal should still be there. The aim should still be there. And as you've heard before, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will judge us and will basically reward us according to our effort. What effort have we made? That is what the judgment will be, not necessarily the conclusion. So one of the things that we see is that how Islam encourages us to think for the sake of Allah, to see for the sake of Allah, to listen, to hear for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And thereby giving us a program, giving us basically a prescription for achieving that perfection that we strive towards. The effort has to be there, the striving has to be there. We should aim towards that. One of the times in one of the discussions that Allama Hilli was having with his son, Fakhrul Muhakkikeen, Allama was looking at his son because, Allama Hilli was one of the greatest maraja, one of the greatest ulama in the entire history of the Shia. An alim, a scholar who was a scholar before he was even baligh. Before he had even reached the age of maturity, he was already a scholar. So one day he was talking to his son. He was now, the absolute religious authority for the whole Shia world at that time. He's looking at his son. He's asking his son that now that you're also coming to becoming a Shaikh, you're also becoming an alim, what is your goal? Who is your mentor? What is your vision? Where do you want to be? Who do you want to be like? And the son smiles and replies to his father. He says, Baba, I would like to be like you. I mean, Allama Hilli, and it's also narrated, and inshallah, if the time permits, one day we'll talk about how he had met Imam Sahib al-Amr on a number of occasions. And so his son says, I want to be like you, Baba. Allama replies to him. He says, if you want to be like me, you will get to this level. You'll get to a certain level that will be lower than me because your goal is that. So the son then counter asks him, then father, what was your goal? Who was your vision? What was your direction? Who did you want to be like? The Allama replies, he says, I was aiming to be as close to Imam as Zamana. That was my goal. And then when I was getting towards Imam Mahdi, this is why I reached to this level that I am at today. So when it comes to our spirituality, when it comes to our religious goals, we should aim as high as possible. When it comes to our worldly goals, we should aim as low as possible. We are told, actually, there's a hadith that mentions that when you're striving for your akhirah, look at those who are above you. Look at those whose salat is better than yours. Look at those whose ibadat is better than yours. Look at those whose fasting is better than yours. But when it comes to your worldly day-to-day existences, and you're driving a certain car and you want a car that is $50,000 more than that, look at the one who's below you, who's driving a bicycle, who's riding on a bicycle. If you have a bicycle, then look at those who are walking. So you look at those who are below you when it comes to your worldly day-to-day affairs. And when you're aiming for the akhirah, when you're aiming for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, go as high as you can. Aim as high as you can. At least you get to a certain level. And so in our discussion today, we're coming to probably one of the most important things in this self-development. And that is, how do we prepare ourselves for Imam Sahib al-Amr wal-Akhir al-Zaman, Ajjalallahu ta'ala dhawan. Masaf. I am certain that all of you youngsters, youths, have got a lot more stamina and energy to recite a more effective and powerful salawat than what I just heard. Because as I come into the prelude of this is something that one teacher had mentioned to me, so I have not been able to authenticate it in any writings or anything. But he was telling me, he says, when the Imam returns, when the Imam's zuhur takes place, when the Imam is back here, and he's running the world according to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's laws, what currency will be in use? Will it be the greenback, the American dollar? Will it be the euro? Will it be the Canadian dollar? Will it be gold bars? Will it be Bitcoin? What will be the currency? And this teacher of mine years ago was mentioning, he said that when the Imam returns, the currency that everybody has got, all these other currencies will be worth absolutely zero, nothing. The currency that will be in use will be the currency of salawat upon Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. So, Jazakallah, Jazakallah. Feel free to cut me off anytime with a salawat, because that means that those who are reciting salawat enthusiastically, they're reciting regularly in this dunya, they had a habit of reciting salawat regularly, they will be very rich when the Imam returns, even if they were poor now. And those who are miserly and who are very quiet and shy, and they didn't really want to be heard and noted, they will be middle class or whatever. Those who did not recite salawat upon Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, they will be the faqir and the ghuraba and everything there. So inshallah, with that, we know that our salawat will inshallah give us a good position with Imam Sahib al-Amr. So one more. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. As well as from the Quranic perspective, one thing we remember, when we've been looking at our ibadat, when we've been talking about fasting, and we've been talking about salah, and we've been talking about hajj and zakat, why do we do all? What is our reason? What is our intention when we do this? I'm doing my salatul maghrib. Then what do we say? Jazakallah. Qurbatan. We want to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if I was to ask you that, does Allah pray? You're laughing. Alhamdulillah, good, good. Allah doesn't pray. Does Allah fast? Na'udhu billah. Allah doesn't need to eat. For the word fasting doesn't right. Does Allah go for hajj? Allah is everywhere. Why does He need to go for hajj? So everything we do is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah doesn't do anything, does He? Allah doesn't need to pray, fast, give khums or zakat, right? You're with me, right? So Allah doesn't need to do anything. All the ibadat is to Allah, for Allah, qurbatan ilallah. But if I was to tell you there's something that Allah does, wouldn't you be shocked? If there was an ibadat that Allah also takes part in, you'll say, what are you talking about? Yeah, I'm able to try and tell you, inshallah bi'idhnillah, whereby Allah Himself says that inna Allaha wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. Surely Allah and His angels send blessings upon Prophet. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Allah Ta'ala, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, Allah Jalla Jalalahu, Allah Azza wa Jal Himself is sending blessings upon Muhammad. He's ordering His angels to send blessings upon Muhammad. And then He tells the believers, if you are deserving of being called a believer, then send blessings upon Muhammad as he deserves to be blessed and praised. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Muhammad wa ali. So one of the most important responsibilities, one of the most important duties in our journey towards developing the complete self in this era that we are living in is to prepare for the awaited Imam. And the Prophet of Islam has been quoted as saying, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أفضل العبادة انتظار الفرج. There's actually two versions of the very similar hadith, they're very similar. One version mentions that the Prophet is أفضل العبادة انتظار الفرج. Another version mentions أفضل الأعمال انتظار الفرج. The best of deeds is preparing for the Imam. The best of actions is to prepare for that. Afzal al-ibadah, afzal al-a'mal. Either one, we are okay with either one of them. Maybe they're both correct. What does it mean to do intizar? When you look at the translation into the English language, and all of you, mashallah, are familiar with English, obviously. That's why you're here tonight, right? And most of you, I would probably say almost all of you, have at least an understanding of Arabic that would allow you to translate the word intizar into English. What does it get translated as? Waiting, awaiting. Interestingly enough, the English language has its own, dynamics. There are certain things that you can say in the English language and you can express it, and then it's very limited and very in what you can express. And oftentimes people have told me who have been familiar with a number of languages, they say English is a very limited language. You cannot say, in the Arabic language, one of my Arabic teachers was telling me that there are 22 words to describe horse. The horse, there's 22, whether it's a fast horse, a slow horse, a traveling horse, if it's a storage horse where he takes the belongings for you, all these things. There's a number of words. As is in the case of Farsi, as even in Urdu and various other languages, English has its own limitations. Okay. The word intizar, when I say we should wait for the Imam, in our own minds, Waiting, intidhar, has a definition that, okay, yep, we're waiting for the Imam. Now, let me give you a bit of a more modern example. I came here to Ottawa last week. And mashallah, Brother Kareem, Sister Zainab kept the house ready for me. I have my own room, I have my own internet, I have my own freedom, I have everything, my own bathroom, everything. It's all ready for me when I came here. Imagine for a moment, forgive me, Brother Kareem. Imagine for a moment I came to his house, I knocked the door, nobody was home. I take my phone out, call him, I said, where are you? He says, I'm at the restaurant. I said, but I told you I'm coming at this time. Yeah, I know. I told you I'll be here on this day. Yeah, I know. And he's sitting at a restaurant having his, mashallah, steak and mashed potatoes. And I'm waiting here outside his door. So I said, brother, did you not wait for me? Are you not waiting for me? He said, yes, I am. So how do I get in your house? You made a break in or something? He said, no, just wait outside. I'll be there in a couple of hours as soon as I finish. Now, he said to me, he's waiting. Would you qualify that as intidhar? Na'udhu billah. But this is what we are. This is where we are right now, my sisters, my brothers. I want us to do a very critical self-analysis. We need to ask ourselves, what preparations have we done for the Imam? Because again, now I'm going to say that the English language gives us a little bit of an explanation. There is something known as active intizar and there is something known as passive intizar. What I just described for you now is the passive intizar. You're sitting up somewhere and you're saying that I'm waiting for you, Shaykh. And the active intizar is that the room was ready, the house was ready, somebody was there ready to welcome me inside, make sure that I was comfortable, make sure that I had the towels that I needed, make sure I have everything and anything that I needed, and at my disposal I had everything. That is the true meaning of intizar, and that is known as active intizar as opposed to passive intizar. What do we have to do? Do we just sit back and Mola, inshallah, when you come? You know, you've heard of Khaybar? The fort of Khaybar. Who conquered it? Allahumma shallah, Allahumma salli. Mawla kainat. After 3 days of others having an opportunity, then finally the Imam takes it over. When Khaybar was overtaken, do you know what was in Khaybar? How much was in Khaybar? Do you know why was Khaybar so heavily fortified? Why? There was a lot of gold. Anybody of you heard of Fort Knox in the US? Fort Knox is where the US government's gold reserves are kept. Heavily guarded, one of the most fortified after the White House, one of the most heavily guarded places in the whole country. Because everything is there. Khaybar actually had so much gold, so much money, so much wealth, that companions of the Holy Prophet, when it was taken and the bounty, the anfal was distributed, the companions, each companion out of the thousands and thousands that were there, received so much that even the poorest of companions who could not afford dates, who could not afford to eat dates, that's how poor they were, when they got their share of Khaybar, 3 generations did not have to work. That's how much they got. There was so much armaments there, that even little children got a bow and arrow, a spear, a sword, and so many weapons. Why was it all there? Because the community was told, that particular community, the rabbis had told them that the last Messiah, the last prophet of God, will come in this area that is known, that today was known at that time as Yathrib. It was in that valley area, Tala al-Badru alayna. That was in that area. So they all migrated from all over the peninsula and they came within the outskirts of Medina, and that is why Medina had one of the highest concentrations of the Jewish believers at that time, or the highest concentrations, because they knew that they were told by their elders and by their scholars that the last true messenger will come there. They built up the armaments so that when that prophet comes, he'll need an army. The army is ready, the armaments are ready. When he comes, he'll need money. He'll have to establish that. The Prophet needed money at his time. If it was not for Khadijat al-Kubra, salamullahi alayha, the message of Islam would not have reached. So they made sure that, when the Prophet comes, everything is ready. They trained their youngsters. They were all good fighters. They trained their youths. They kept everything ready. And of course, history tells us that they ended up opposing the Holy Prophet. But what I wanted to tell you was that they were preparing for the Prophet, because when the Prophet comes, we can't expect him to start doing the fundraising. We don't expect him to start gathering the weapons to establish this revolution or the movement. We have to keep it ready. So the Prophet's job is to put the icing on the cake. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. To put the icing and the cherry on, not to bake the whole cake. You understand the terminology? Today I need to ask myself that if the Imam comes, what preparation have I made for the Imam? What have I done to be ready? What have we as a community done to keep the road ready, the path ready for the Imam Sahibul Amr when he returns? Have we kept ourselves ready? When the Imam returns, the Imam will have an army. You just heard that, right? You've heard it from scholars, you've heard it from ulama, you've heard it in many, many lectures. I'm not the first one and I won't be the last one to talk about the Imam's army, the Imam's army. Have we thought for a moment to reflect upon how will be the Imam's army? What will be the criteria for the Imam's army? Who will be able to enter the Imam's army? Who will be worthy? If I want to join the CAF, the Canadian Armed Forces, they'll give me a questionnaire, they'll give me an application, they'll test my endurance, they'll test my agility, they'll make sure that I'm fit. How tall am I? How short am I? How chubby am I? Oops, I'm going to fail that one. They'll look at everything. How fast can you run? What can you do? Can you climb walls? Can you climb this? Can you do that? Rock climbing is a good training point. They'll get all this and they'll check it and they'll test it, and then they will decide whether I am worthy of being in the CAF or not, the Canadian Armed Forces. And now, when the Imam returns, will the Imam have a similar questionnaire? Does the Imam care how tall I am or how short I am? Will the Imam worry about how chubby I am or how thin I am? The Imam's army will not have any of this taken into consideration. The Imam's army will be those who have got taqwa and iman. That will be the Imam's criteria. So that means that if I have a whole host of salat that I have had qada from years, or I've had fasting I didn't do in the month of Ramadan, or I had taken somebody's haqq, somebody's rights, or I had spoken ill of somebody and I had not apologized to them, asked them for forgiveness, then that will actually remove me from the Imam's army, because the Imam's army will not be looking at our physical stature, it will be looking at what we have inside of us. One salawat upon Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. The Imam's criteria will be whose taqwa is at the level that it's supposed to be at, whose iman and aqeedah is at the level it's at, whose actions are as close to perfection as they can be. Because if the Imam returns and I've had all this, because I can't go to the Imam and says, Mawla, can you just give me a couple of hours? I have to finish a number of salat that I had missed. Mawla, can you give me a couple of weeks? I've got about 10 qadha fasts that I had not made up in the month of Ramadan. I just was too lazy all this time. The Imam's army will be of people who are up to date with their ibadat. Mawla, before I can join your army, can you just give me a few minutes? I have to go apologize to my parents for what I said and did. Oh, I had taken that person's haqq or amana, or I had broken that person's secret, and I have to go and apologize to them before I can join, because the Imam will have that in his criteria. The Imam will be, and this is where we need to see, if the Imam was to appear, we say to the Imam, Al-Ajal, Al-Ajal, Ya Mawla, Ya Sahibul Zaman, Al-Ajal, Al-Ajal, we pray for the Imam. But if the Imam was actually to return today, and he was to come right here, at the Ark session today, in Masjid Imam Ali, would we be able to welcome the Imam and say, I'm ready to join your army, Mawla? Labayk ya ibn Rasulullah. I often, with my elders, I make a challenge as well. And I, myself included. I make a challenge sometimes with my elders. If the Imam was to reappear right here, right now, which one of us would be able to take the Imam to our house? Without having to phone our wife or somebody at home and say, please put those CDs away, please put those books away, please put those song cassettes away, please the things that are not there, put the Quran outside on the table. If the Imam was to come right away, would we be able to welcome him and say, okay, Mawla, you can come to my house, everything is okay? The rizq that I have earned is halal. I have paid my homes, everything. I have not taken the haqq of your mother, your grandmother Fatima Zahra. I'm up to date in my homes and my ibadat. Whatever I have earned, Ya Allah, Ya Ibn Rasulullah, whatever I have earned, it is halal rizq, it is tayyib rizq, it is not stolen money, it is not usurped money, it is not money that I have earned without working, it is something that I have honestly with my sweat gone. Would we be able to do that? Would we be able to take the Imam home and say, yes, everything we have, the Imam will accept. The Imam will, because remember, one of the aspects of our belief in the Imamat is that the Imam, his actions are hujjah. If they see me doing something wrong, if an Imam Ma'asum sees me doing something wrong, it is wajib on him to say that this is wrong, you cannot do it. That is why we are all ordered and allowed to follow any action of the Imam. This does not apply to an alim, this does not apply to a maraja, that just because you see a Shaikh or a Sayyid doing something, just because you see a marja doing something, that does not necessarily mean that that is a part of Islam. But if you see a Ma'asum doing something, then that is a part of Islam. So the Imam would have to tell me that this is wrong, this is haram. Why is this here? Why is that there? And this is where we have to do our, as I mentioned, self-analysis, a little bit of a critique. That where do we stand? What is our relationship, our interrelationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Because that will determine what will be our obedience to the Imam. You know, when the Imam gives an order, so often, sometimes for us to listen to somebody and defy orders or deny orders becomes really easy. We like to challenge, we like to say, well, why should I do this? You know, you heard my hi, why, and bye lectures. I don't want to say anything, repeat that. But if you remember that, you know, sometimes when somebody tells you to do something and you want a rationale, if a scholar tells you that this is haram in Islam, this is wajib in Islam, it's authenticated, it's true, but you know what, I'm still not ready. A man at the time of the transition between Banu Umayyah were falling, alayhim al-an, and Banu Abbas, alayhim al-an, they were about to rise. In that period of transition, the sixth holy Imam had a little bit of time to, basically what you can say, breathe, to teach, to convey the message. In that era, a man comes to Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam and says, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, Ali Muhammad. He says, Yabna Rasulullah, the time is ripe for you to stand. This time is ripe for you to take your, your movement. This is the perfect time for you. Banu Umayyah have been finished. Banu Abbas have not yet established themselves. This is the time that you can get your haqq back. I have got 100,000 soldiers in Khorasan ready to support you. 100,000 soldiers, my friends, my city people, are ready to support you. Let's rise. You know, those who are emotional, I would have said, yeah, let's go for it, let's go for it. 100,000 people, mashallah, bismillah, yallah, let's go. Tafadhal. The Imam tells his servant, light the tanur, the oven, light it. So the servant does what it is. The Imam is still talking to this man from Khorasan. He was a Khorasani. The tanur is lit. In the meantime, the Imam, when it's lit, they walk, he tells the man, come to this place where this oven is, the tanur. He goes to the place where the oven is and he tells this man from Khorasan, he tells the Khorasani, he says, okay, get into this fire. The man is startled. The man is shocked. The man says, Yabna Rasulullah, I came to help you and you want to burn me. I still have a family. My kids are waiting for me. I have to get back to Khorasan. Please forgive me. I won't suggest this to you anymore. Imam says, okay. They go back and sit down. Just in that meantime, a companion of the Imam known as Harun Makki, he comes by knocking on the door. The Imam says, Harun, come inside. Imam lets Harun inside. And he says, Harun, go inside this tanur. Go inside this oven. It is narrated, the biographers of Imam Sadiq says that Harun Makki did not even remove his sandals, his slippers. He went with the slippers inside and he jumped into the tanur, into that oven. The Imam covers the oven. The Khorasani is, you can just imagine, I see the look on many of your faces. The Khorasani was like that. Imam was just talking to him again afterwards, trying to make small chat. This man's mind is poor Harun Makki. He just comes to the Imam's house and the Imam has already thrown him into the oven. He can't concentrate. The Imam notices this discomfort. The Imam notices this. They go back to the oven. The Imam removes the lid. Ya naru kuni bardan wa salama ala Ibrahim. He lifts it up. What does he see? What do they see? What do the people see there? What do these two see? They see Harun Makki sitting in the middle of the oven where the fire is all around him and he's taking the tasbih of salawat upon Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. He's Allahumma. Allahu Akbar. Imam then tells Harun to come out. Then he looks at that Khorasani and he says to that Khorasani, out of that 100,000, how many are like this? Out of that 100,000, how many are like this? He replies, not one, Mawla. Not one. So this is where we have to see where we stand. If we are ready to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala whenever the commandment of Allah is there, when we're ready to obey the Imam whenever the Imam's commandment is there, then yes, we will be able to go in the Imam's army. It's not an easy task. Many of us may have thought it's going to be easy to get into the Imam's army. Yeah, of course. Those who are in it, inshallah, who are developing themselves, it is easy. But to develop yourself to get to that stage, to have that yaqeen, that certainty, is challenging. Marhum Ayatullah al-Uzma, Shaykh Muhammad Taqi Behjat, Shaykh al-Arifin, Allah maqam. He says that he was talking about certainty, yaqeen on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says that he gives a story in one of his dars, in one of his classes. He says that, there was little children, kindergarten age children. And one of them tells a friend of his, he says that, I'm hungry. So this other child tells this friend of his, go tell your mother to give you some food. The child says, I don't have a mother. I don't have a mother. So this other child says, okay, come to my mother. She'll give us food. She'll give us both food. He says, that child has such yaqeen, certainty, that his mother, all his life has given him food, will give food. The idea of a mother, it means that your hunger is quenched. Your hunger is, quenched by the mother. That certainty is there that my mother will give me food. And if you are hungry, my mother will also give you food. Ayatollah Behjat mentions, imagine if our yaqeen on Allah and trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was the same as that yaqeen that child has on his mother. Imagine if we trusted in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if we had that certainty in Allah, the way a child has that certainty in his parent to give him or her food, where we would have been today. If we trusted Allah with our rizq, our sustenance, our very lives, our essences, then these worries that we have dispel very quickly. And we prepare to go to the Imam when the call comes. The Imam is not far away from us. Please keep that in mind. One of the things that I wanted to highlight in today's discussion was, again, another narration from the same Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam, in which the Imam mentions that the Quran Majid talks about two types of ghaibah, occultation. When we talk about the ghaibatul Imam, the occultation of the Imam, I don't like to use the word disappearance. Some scholars, some writers, some translators have said the Imam is in disappearance. Disappearance, this disappearance is almost a mystical, it's a word that to me does not give a true message of what state the Imam is in. The Imam is in occultation, which means that he is not physically with our eyes right now, perceived by us as he should be perceived. Sixth Imam again gives a very beautiful analogy. He says that the same way that the sun that is behind the clouds still provides you with heat, still provides you with a degree of light, it still has a functioning essence, the same way that when our Qaim is behind the curtain of ghaibah, he will still continue to grace the earth. Allahumma salli ala. The Imam talks about two types of ghaibah, occultation that the Quran Majid has got. Our discussion has been on the Quran, understanding and appreciating and acknowledging and implementing the Quran in our lives. Sixth Imam says there are two types of occultation that the Quran Majid describes. One is the occultation or the ghaibah of the Ashab Kahf. There's a surah in the Quran Majid, Surah Al-Kahf, right? 19th surah of the Holy Quran. No, 18th. Surah Al-Maryam, thank you, Jazakallah khair. Speaking of testing, actually, I am, in case if any of you are interested, inshallah, I'm preparing a little bit of a quiz, if you wish. And whatever you might have learned and acknowledged, I will give it to my dear brother Kareem, inshallah, and we'll distribute it. If you wish to, you can fill it out and give it to him or give it to me, email it to me or whatever. And anybody who does so and inshallah receives a passing mark, we will at the IHS from Kitchener send you a free gift book, inshallah, on Imam Mahdi, Ajjallah ta'ala dhuhura. One salawat upon Muhammad and Ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Stay tuned for details, inshallah. Brother Kareem and Sister Zainab on the ladies' sister side will have, inshallah, access to it. Anyways, so the Imam says that Ashab al-Kahf, yes, it is the 18th surah of the Quran Majid. In that surah, Allah Ta'ala gives an explanation of this group, of the Ashab al-Kahf, the cave people. And sometimes some of the students who have been reading the Quran Majid translations, they come to me, is this talking about the cavemen? Well, not the cavemen that you think of, those anga banga banga, the big, long, hairy cavemen with the bats and the sticks. No, not those cavemen. The people of the cave. Ashab al-Kahf. Okay, that's a different topic on itself. I have to really be careful because we want to make sure that we do the Azadari in these important nights that are still before us. So the Ashab Kahf, basically, there was a group of very good believers, and they had their dog with them. And we are told that this is the one dog that will, inshallah, be accompanying the Ashab al-Kahf to paradise. And out of interesting quiz, this is not on the quiz, but inshallah, if anybody wants this for general interest and general knowledge, do you know what the name of that dog was? It's so interesting because those of my community members who are probably from the Pakistani or the Khoja community, you probably remember when we used to write letters back and forth, we used to write this on the envelope. My grandfather, I still remember when he would write us or mail us some letters or anything, or on their suitcases, they would actually write this name, the name of the dog of Ahlul Kahf, Ahl Kahf, Ashab al-Kahf. First letter, okay, I wish we had time, seriously. First letter is Qaf. This is like, what's that, Jeopardy? Not Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, huh? Not Qamar, Qaf. Next one is Toy. Toy. No? Sister side, please. Next is Meme. Only 2 letters left now. It's going to be a problem for me. Is it? MashaAllah, may Allah bless you. Qaf, Toy, Meme, Ye, Ra, Qitmir. And if you ask any of the elders in various communities and that you go to and you ask them, the elders, they will remember. Because nowadays people, when I tell them that, did you mail a letter, did you post it, how much is the postage? I say, what's a letter? What's postage? What's an envelope? What are you talking about? This is the area of emails and emojis and emoticons, and nobody has emotions anymore. Everybody has emoticons now. This is scary. People's emotions are out the window and emoticons are there. If you want to cry, there's lots of 4 different emojis that you can put how you want to cry. You want to cry with torrents of tears. You want to cry a little bit. You want to smile. You want to laugh. You want to laugh really loud. Or, all these things. In my time, LOL was lots of love. You would write that to your fiance, and the fiance would write to you like that, lots of love, LOL. Nowadays they tell me LOL, if we write that to the Shaikh, good thing he doesn't know what it means because we're laughing at him. Salawat upon Muhammad. Salawat. Not just laughing out loud. So the Ashab al-Kahf, the Quran Majid, again, the story is very beautiful. So if I can give you a little bit of homework, and it is Islamic homework, just go to the Quran Majid, read the story, and if you can find the commentary, good Ahlul Bayt commentary on the Ashab al-Kahf, you'll see what they went through. Such a beautiful story. In the end, they were very fed up with this oppressive king, oppressive regime that was there. Allah Ta'ala put them in a cave. They fell asleep. And they fell asleep for centuries. And after they woke up, they were hungry. I'm sure if you fell asleep for a couple of hours and like me, a couple of minutes, you fell hungry again, right? And so after that, they were hungry. They woke up. They saw that their donkey had been, it's all bones, skeleton. And so they took the money. They went to the market. They went to buy something. And everything had changed. The king had become the emperor, the ruler of the area, had become a Mu'min. But they still saw that these coins are from centuries ago. How do you have them? They were arrested and everything, but it was a good, a good king at that time. Okay, as I said, long story short, Allah Ta'ala afterwards, they still didn't feel in place. They felt out of place and things had happened. So Allah Ta'ala took them into the cave, back into the Kahf, closed them up. And at the time of the Dhuhr Imam, just after the Dhuhr Imam, they will be out of that cave. They have no contact with the outside world. The outside world has no contact with them. Some say that they are just in the outskirts of Syria. Some say they are in somewhere in Egypt. Some say there are different places where the Ashab al-Kahf are said to be. Okay, no contact with them. They don't have contact with us. Khalas. Imam Sadiq mentions the second type of ghaibah, occultation. He says that is the occultation that is narrated in Suratul Yusuf. Surah Al-Yusuf, again, another lot of beautiful stories in Surah Yusuf, Allahu Akbar. And how we can learn so many things, about patience, perseverance. And also, when I had mentioned about how people just, out of emotion, out of sometimes ignorance, illiteracy, they say, oh yeah, you're doing sajda on the turba, this is haram, this is shirk, this is bid'ah. They talk, remember what I mentioned, it's not the sajda as an action, it is the order of Allah that we have to obey. Please keep that in mind, because that will be very connected into all our discussions. When Hazrat Yusuf goes to his father and says, and the Quran is narrating this, that I see the stars and the moon doing what to me? Sujood, sajda to me. Not once in the Quran it says this is shirk, this is haram, this is, So you can see the order of Allah is something that we have to keep at the top of everything that we are thinking and doing. So the brothers throw him into the well. Many, many years later, he has been taken, he has been enslaved, he has done everything that, happens. And it's years later, and Iran has made a beautiful movie on the story of Hazrat Yusuf. I encourage you to watch that, inshallah. It is a very beautiful, there are parts in that you can visualize the pain and the suffering Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salam went through. And when the time came when the brothers had reconnected and they had gone to him and apologized, Prophet Yusuf, after what he had suffered all these years, forgave them right away. When they went to Hazrat Yaqub to apologize and say sorry, Hazrat Yaqub had suffered a lot as well, having this son who was his closest son. They went to him. You know what Hazrat Yaqub replies? He says, "Come back on Friday. I'll think about it and I'll give you an answer." One of the commentators of the Quran Majid, when I was studying this, he said that you see the difference between the two. Prophet Yaqub alayhi salam says, give me a few days, give me till Jum'ah, I will inshallah forgive you, but give me till Jum'ah to think about it. Prophet Yusuf immediately forgave them. What this commentator said was that if you want to see who is a youth and who is old, don't look at the age. Look at their stamina for forgiveness and to help and embrace each other when mistakes have been committed. The old people who are harder, they will take time to think about it and still have the grudge inside. But those who are young and who are active and emotionally, spiritually closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they will be able to forgive immediately, inshallah. On salawat upon Muhammad and Ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
So the brothers had thrown him. Many years later, so many years, decades had passed, and Prophet Yusuf by that time was basically the main minister to hand out the rations when the famine had come into this Egyptian area, in this area. At that time, when the brothers came to get their rations, to get their stipends, they were talking to him, he was talking to them. He knew who they were, they didn't know who they were. Imam Jafar ibn Muhammad mentions, he says that the occultation, the ghaiba of our last one, of our hujjah, will be like the occultation of Hazrat Yusuf's time. That the Imam will be coming to us, he'll be talking to us, he'll have interaction with us. He goes for Hajj every year, he goes for Ziyarah every year. He'll be meeting the Mu'mineen on an ongoing, regular basis. He will know who we are, we will not know who he is. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
In fact, when the dhuhr takes place, when the Imam does return, no believer will be able to say, even if you're like me, I'm half-time believer, half-time we slip, we make mistakes, and we're trying to come back, but no believer will be able to say that this is the first time I'm seeing him. Oh my God, this person helped me when I was in difficulty. This was the person who had helped me when I was in need. Sometimes you got stuck. Sometimes you're in a very desperate situation. Sometimes you are in a problem that you don't know what to do, how to do it, how to get out of this. And somebody comes and helps you. And at that time, because you're so tense and you're so full of anxiety, you don't realize it. And afterwards, when the Imam returns, you say, this is the person who would help me at that moment. So every one of us may have already had interaction. Because Allah has not taken the Imam and put him away in Jazirat al-Khidra and locked him away and has no interaction. No. Imam Sadiq says, the Imam is here, around. The Imam interacts. But nobody's allowed to say that they have interacted with the Imam or the Imam gave them some instructions. There's a whole different. And we have got many examples of ulama, scholars, and just ordinary people who have had interactions, meeting with imams, not knowing that they were there at that time, not knowing that this was the imam of the time at that time. And I mentioned earlier in today's discussion, Allama Hilli, one of the greatest scholars. One time, he was actually reading when he was doing his research and everything. He was already a marja, he was always a mujtahid. And there's numerous like this, but this is one of them, I'll tell you. That he was reading in one of the writings that anybody who goes to Karbala Mu'alla, who does the ziyarah of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, for 40 Laylatul Jum'ahs, they will meet Imam Sahibul Amr. He was reading that. And then he also was reading, in his research, anybody who shares tears for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, their sins will be forgiven. And he was just thinking to himself, why would Allah forgive the sins of anybody who cries for Abu Abdullah Hussein? He was just thinking that. And One other thing that was on his mind was there was a masail that he could not reach the fatwa for. You know, people sometimes think that fatwa are, just Maraja, just take out fatwa like this. You know, why does Sayyid Sistani have this fatwa? Why does Imam Khamenei have this fatwa? Why does Ayatollah Nasir Makarim have this fatwa? Why does Ayatollah Safi have this fatwa? They think that, fatwa are like, those magicians have that hat and they pull out a bunny from the hat. They think fatwa are like this. If any of you ever go to Qom or Najaf and you attend any senior alim's class and you see how they reach fatwa, how they reach masail, you will be absolutely stunned and shocked. Because the marja will be sitting here saying that my fatwa on this issue is so and so. One student will stand up and say, Aga, give us the dalil. Another student will say, Aga, what if this riwayah is not mustanad? What if this is not sahih? What if this is dhaif? In the class, in that dars-e-kharij, what is called dars-e-kharij, the other students will stand up and say, Aga, I don't accept this. Give us your dalil. Give us your conclusion. Why this, why that? And it's like one fatwa sometimes takes a whole month or 6 weeks of discussion before the marja puts it in his Tawdi al-Masail. So just appreciate and understand that it's not just something that, well, he's sitting one day and thinking, okay, well, I think the moon sighting should be like this. I think salat is like this. No. They have actually done us a great favor by going on towards ijtihad and taking on this responsibility. So Allama Hilli was once thinking that this one masala he cannot find the answer for. And he had begun this 40 times going to Karbala Mualla on Laylatul Jummah. After a number of months passing, because remember, 40 Shab-e Jummahs, Laylatul Jummahs, is approximately how long? Jazakallah, that was fast. About 10 months. So a number of months had passed, he was going there. So one day he was going on his horseback, and as he was going, another horse rider came, and Allama was always in thought. So the other horse rider said, Salaam alaikum, Allama said alaikum salam, and he was thinking, and then they got into talking. And Allama realized that this man is very knowledgeable. I mean, Allama was the main marja taqleed, the main alim in the entire Muslim world, the entire world, Shia scholar. He said, this man is so knowledgeable, mashallah. So he actually asked him that this masail I have not been able to find. Do you know where it is? So the man says, yes, it's in Sheikh Tusi's book, this chapter, just this page, this paragraph. It's there, you will find it there. So he says, okay, thank you very much. And then he says that I'm perplexed about one thing. He says that it is narrated that anybody who genuinely sheds tears for Abu Abdullah and has arifan bihaqqihi, has recognized the Imam, recognizes the truth of the Imam, his sins get forgiven. I just don't understand that, Allama is saying to this alim. The alim replies, he said, imagine for a moment, imagine that there is a king of an entire region and area. He is the absolute monarch of that area. He goes hunting with his whole entourage. Kings are always surrounded by their entourages. They have this, they have that, bodyguards and cooks and chefs and everybody, protectors. He's going and he sees a very beautiful deer and he wants to hunt that deer. He wants to go. So he follows that deer. He just takes his horse and he just runs after that deer. The deer is going faster. He's just keeping going and following that. Sometime later, the deer is gone. The king is lost. The entourage, he has no idea where they are. They have no idea where he is. He walks and walks and walks, looks around, can't find anything. Nothing to eat, nothing to drink. He's very, very getting hungry, very thirsty. At a distance, he sees a house. He sees a house there. He manages to secure enough strength to go to the house. He knocks on the door, and an old lady is there, elderly lady is there. He says that, I'm very thirsty. Can you please help me? So she goes to her backyard. She had a small shack. She goes to her backyard. She had her possession, her whole worldly possession was one cow. She goes and she milks the cow, takes the milk from the cow, and she brings it to this king right away and gives it to him. The king musters a bit of strength. Thereafter, he tells her that I'm so hungry. I've not eaten for such a long time. I'm very hungry. The lady goes to her backyard, sacrifices the cow, cooks the meat. After a certain amount of time, she feeds the king. The king eventually realizes what has happened, that this was all she had. With that milk, she would go and buy eggs. With that milk, she would sell it and buy her necessities. With that milk, that cow was her only possession she had in this dunya. She sacrificed, she killed it. The king realizes what has happened, acknowledges it, and says, do you know who I am? She says, no. He says, I'm the king. She goes, okay. Because do you realize what you have done for me? She goes, you were hungry, you were thirsty, I gave you milk. You were hungry, I gave you food. What? He said, no, but you saved me, you saved my life. Anytime you come, I'm inviting you to the Darul Khilafah, to the capital. To the capital, you say, you come there and anything you want, you can have. This alim is asking Allama Hilli, if that king was to give this old lady half his kingdom, would he have paid her off? Allama says, no, of course not. The man asks Allama Hilli, if he gives his entire kingdom, has he paid her? She only gave one cow. He's giving the whole kingdom. Allama says, absolutely not. He says, why? He says, because the lady gave everything she had. So even if the king was to give everything he had according to his standard, it would still not balance it off. So this man tells Allama Hilli, he says that, do you realize Abu Abdullah al-Hussein on the plains of Karbala, on Ashura, gave everything he had for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if Allah forgives the sins of those who are crying for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, then there is no surprise in that. One salawat upon Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. And then the Allama asks the last thing that he had on his mind. He said that I have read that anybody who for 40 Shab-e Jum'ahs, Laylatul Jum'ahs, goes to Karbala and Mu'alla for the ziyarat of Abu Abdullah, he will meet with Imam Sahib al-Amr. Do you think that is true? And just as he was talking that they hold on to the reins of the horse, the rein fell down. This man picks up the reins, puts it in the hand of Allama Hilli, and says that what better sharaf, what better honor for you than the Imam for whom you are going to Karbala is putting the reins back in your hand. And he salawat and he immediately disappears. No, Allama continues. So you can see what the Imam's occultation is all about. It is not that Allah has taken him and put him away. The Imam, we are encouraged to call him for help. We're encouraged to ask him regularly and repeatedly for help. In fact, we oftentimes ask our other Aimma, and yes, we do. That's no harm. Of course, it is encouraged to say, Ya Ali Madad, Ya Ali Adrikni. But at the same time, make sure on a daily basis, we remember Imam Sahib al-Amr, and we regularly say, Ya Sahib al-Zaman Adrikni as well. The Imam's time and our intidhar is extremely critical. What we have to remember now is that the intidhar that we have to do for the Imam has to be proactive, not reactive. Has to be active intidhar, not passive intidhar. On a daily basis, we need to ask ourselves, what did I do for Imam today? Is my Imam pleased with me today? Because we are told, tonight is Laylatul Jum'ah, the holiest night of the week. Tomorrow is the day of Jummah. Yawmul Eid, Yawmul Barakah, Yawmul Ni'mah, the day of blessing, the day of grace, the day of Eid, the day of Allah's, all these bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is also the day that is dedicated and acknowledged for Imam Sahib al-Amr. This is the day of Jummah for the Imam. There's a special ziyarah after Salatul Asr to be recited for the Imam. Please do it. And inshallah, in our Saturday discussion, we'll talk about some of the responsibilities we have during the time of Imam's occultation as well. When we're summarizing the discussions, I'll take a few minutes to talk about some of our duties and our responsibilities, inshallah, on Saturday night on Laylatul Ashur, so that inshallah, because there's a very close, important connection between Abu Abdullah al-Hussein and Imam Sahib al-Amr. And inshallah, we'll talk about that. Because tomorrow we'll talk about how the science and technology and how the Imam will have at his disposal, at his access, how science and technology has actually had to surrender itself before Islam, as opposed to Islam having to mold itself in the way of science and technology. So we see that how Abu Abdullah alayhi salam sacrificed everything and anything he had for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as we come closer and closer to the night and day of Ashura, we see and we acknowledge how those tears that we shed for Abu Abdullah give us the strength to be able to confront the Yazids of our time. One of the things that is important for us to do, people often ask that, how do we confront this Yazid yet? How do we confront it? There's no Yazid today as such. Well, remember one thing, Yazid as an individual is not there, but Yazidiyat is there. We may not be Hussein, but we still have to exemplify Husseyniyat, to become the Hussein of the time. To confront this, people often ask, how can we do that? There's a very beautiful story in the time of Prophet Ibrahim, when Namrud had lit that fire. And after such a long time, some say that for 2 years that fire was burning. And the problem was how to get Prophet Ibrahim into that fire. They can't just tell Ibrahim to go walk in it. Shaitan comes and shows them how to make a catapult, to throw him into the fire. As he's being flung into the fire, I know you were thinking that I was going to talk about Jibreel coming to him and asking him for help. No, I'm going to talk about another little story. A bird sees this happening. And he sees this happening. And this little bird goes to the river, it goes to the Tigris or whatever river that's there, takes a little bit of water in its beak and goes and spits it into the fire. And the other birds are looking and laughing and saying, are you trying to put out this fire with this little spit of water? What do you think you're doing? You're not going to acknowledge anything. You're going to do anything. The bird replies that I saw the friend of Allah, Khalilullah, being thrown into the fire. I saw this tragedy about to happen. On the day of judgment, when my Allah asks me that you saw my Habib being thrown, my Khalil being thrown, what did you do? The bird can say, I did whatever I could do with the abilities that I had. Each and every one of us, sisters and brothers, will not be asked, did you overthrow the government of Canada or America? Did you do this? Did you create this change? We will be asked, what did you do sitting in Ottawa or in Kanata or in the surrounding areas with whatever Allah Ta'ala gave you? Did you strive for justice? Did you strive for equality? Did you fight against the racist movements? Did you fight against the injustices that are around? Did you stand up for the indigenous people? Did you make sure your voice was heard for Yemen and Bahrain and Nigeria? Did you make sure that Palestinians had a voice in you? If nothing else, did you make a phone call to your MP or to the United Nations? Did you tell your Governor General what you felt, how you are? Did you take a moment to send an email? It's free of charge. Make a phone call. Be active in your community. Be a voice to be heard and reckoned with. In the election of 1988, I was a candidate for federal office. I was a federal candidate in that election. At that time, I learned something that an overwhelming majority of our people don't know. When you send a letter to your MP, to a political elected official, or to your MPP, this can apply to your mayor or anybody else. You send a letter, or you make a phone call to that MP or MPP or to that MLA, that means 20 votes are there because 20 people feel something, but only one of them will respond. So if 10 people from ARC call their MP, to that member it's 200 votes. If 100 people, that means 2,000 votes are at stake here. Okay? And what that means is that they'll take it seriously because when you make a phone call, when you send a letter, when you send an email, it is serious. It may not change anything. Maybe they will not change their policy. But at least you can say, I did what I was able to do. I did what I could do, Ya Allah. Inshallah, Mawla will accept it. Because you did something for the message of Mawla. That's what will be expected of us. Doesn't matter whether you're old or young. Karbala was not for only the old or the mid-age. Youngsters were there. Youths were there. I see many of you as Qasim, as Awn and Muhammad, and as Abul Fadl. If your dedication is there, your determination is there, when Qasim bin Hassan comes to his uncle Hussein and asks for permission, Imam asks him a question when they're talking about the next day, the day of Ashur, Laylatul Ashur. He asks him, كيف عندك الموت? What is death to you, Qasim? And Qasim replies, it is sweeter than honey. Sweeter than honey to me. The Imam embraces Qasim on Laylatul Ashur and says, yes, your name is also in the list of the Shuhada. Your name is also in the list of the Shuhada. The day of Ashur comes, all the Ashab have laid down their lives. All of the Ashab have laid down their lives. One by one, they have given themselves up for the sake of Abu Abdullah. Then the time comes for the family members. On numerous occasions, when the family members one by one are going, Qasim keeps coming to the Imam. Uncle, now may I go? Imam says no. Uncle, now may I go? Imam says no. Awn and Muhammad have gone. Imam says no. Finally, he comes back to his mother's tent. Farwa is asking him, Qasim, why are you not going to lay your life down? And he replies, Mummy, I keep going to my uncle, but he keeps refusing me. He keeps telling me I can't let the representative of my brother Hassan go onto the battlefield. At that time, Farwa remembers that Imam Hassan, just before his shahadat,
Imam Hassan, just before his shahadat, had given a small amulet. He had given a small amulet to Hazrat Farwa and said that take this with you, keep this with you. When you come to a very difficult moment, open it up and inshallah your problem will be solved there. On the plains of Karbala, Farwa realized that there's no more difficult time for us than this moment. At that time she gives the amulet, she gives this little ta'weez to Imam Hassan, to Qasim. Qasim opens it up and says that there's a letter addressed to Imam Hussein and a small letter addressed to him. The letter addressed to him is stating that Qasim, do not hesitate to lay down your life. The letter to Imam Hussein is given to Imam Hussein. When Imam Hussein says that Hassan has left something, Imam Hussein cries. He has got tears in his eyes. He kisses the letter. And in the letter, Imam Hassan says, Hussein, my dear brother Hussein, please do not neglect, please do not refuse this sacrifice on my behalf. Let my Qasim go.
He then permitted him to fight. He came out with a face looking like a full moon, bearing a sword and wearing a mantle, saying, إن تنكروني فأنا ابن الحسن صبت النبي المصطفى والمؤتمن هذا حسين كالأسير المرتهن بين أناس لاصقوا صوب المزن. He fought bravely, killing many of the enemies. His sandal strings on his left foot was cut off. He stopped for a moment to tie his sandal, paying no heed to their multitude. As he was thus engaged, one of the enemies hit Al-Qasim with his sword. Al-Qasim fell on the ground crying out, Amma alayka minni salam. This is my father Hassan sending you his salam. And this is my grandfather giving me a drink that quenched my thirst. Al-Hussein alayhi salam rushed to him and he killed his killer. After some time the cloud of dust dissipated. Al-Hussein alayhi salam was seen sitting beside Al-Qasim, examining his feet. بكى ونادى يا جاسم شبيدي يا ريت السيف قبلك حز وريدي. أنا لكم تخلوني وحيدي على الخيام يا عم الخيل تفتح. شنو قال له؟ قال له بني قاسم يعز والله على عمك أن تدعوه ولا يجيب أو يجيبك فلا ينفعك أو ينفعك فلا يغني عنك شيئا. He then carried Al-Qasim back to the camp and placed his body next to Ali al-Akbar. جاب ومدد ما بين اخوته. بكى عندها يا ويلي وهم موته وهم موته. بس ما سمع عن النسوان صوته. اجت تصيح الله اكبر. He alayhi salam then left the tent. He knew that Ramla, his mother, wanted to see him. His mother rushed to the tent. She threw herself on her son's body and started weeping. Bunay, رديت ما ردت دنيا ولا مال تحضرني لو وقع حملي
ولا مال ولا مال يا ابني خابت ظنوني، والآمال والآمال محل الضيق يا ابني قطع بيا، محل الضيق يا ابني قطعت بيا. يما ذكريني من تمر زفت شباب، من العرس محروم وحنيتي دم المصاب، شمعة شبابي من يطفوها حنيتي دمي والجفن دار التراب. يما ذكريني من تمر زفت شباب، ساعدني يما ذكريني من العرس محروم وحنيتي دم المصاب، شمعة شبابي من يطفوها حنيتي دمي والجفن ذار التراب. يما ذكريني من تمر يوم المبارك أصبح الدين شهيد، وفزع العمي من يظل بالطف وحيد، رمل بمصابي خلي واسوها حنيتي دمي والجفن ذار التراب. يما ذكريني من تمر زفت أهلي وصاني بالوفا يوم الطفوف، ومن الدم وريدي يصبح خضاب الجفوف. هذه وصيتي يل تسمعوها حنيتي دمي والجفن دار التراب. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا آل محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون، والعاقبة للمتقين. طيبوا أفواهكم بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
Forgive our sins, give us a tawfiq to remain away from sins in our lives, Ya Allah. Let us try and act according to the teachings of the Quran Majid and the Ahlul Bayt. Ya Allah, those who are ill, grant them shifa kamila from their illnesses. Those who are in debt, help them fulfill their debts. Those who are suffering risks, problems, sustenance, any shortcomings in their day-to-day lives, Ya Allah, increase their rizq, increase their sustenance, increase their barakat. Ya Allah, help the mu'mineen, the mustazafeen, those who are suffering, help them whether they are in Pakistan, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Bahrain, in Syria, in Iraq, in Libya, in Lebanon, in Palestine, in Yemen. Ya Allah, grant them a safety from their oppressors, grant the mustazafeen a speedy victory.
Ya Allah, protect our ulama, our maraja, the rahbar, the waliya faqih, those who are serving while the Imam is in occultation. Grant them a long and healthy life and safety from all the difficulties that are around them. Ya Allah, bihaqqi hadha laylatul jum'ah, bihaqqi, for the sake of this Thursday night, we ask you, Ya Allah, to return our Mawla Imam al-Hujjah to us. Make us amongst the ashab and the ansar of the Imam. Let us see zamana al-dhuhur with our own eyes. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. One Surah Al-Fatiha preceded by our salawat upon Muhammad and Ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
آل محمد. أحسنتم مولانا، طيب الله أنفاسكم. Brother Hadi, أحسنتم. Please help me welcome Brother Abu Zahra with a loud salawat.
لتعجيل ظهور مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. سلام على القاسم بن الحسن، 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 سلام على القاسم بن الحسن. Everyone, سلام على القاسم بن الحسن، 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 سلام على ابن الإمام الكريم، سلام على ابن الهدى المستقيم، غريب الطفوف تحنى دماء، فهبك الحسين رحيب اليتيم، سلام على ابن الإمام الكريم، سلام على ابن الهدى المستقيم، غريب الطفوف تحنى دماء، فهبك الحسين رحيب اليتيم، سلام على القاسم بن الحسن، سلام على القاسم بن الحسن، سلام على القاسم بن الحسن، سلام فتى كربلاء يا حبيب الحسين، قليل تذوب لك المقلتين، أيا لابسا عمة المجتبى، وفيت الوصية بالمنحرين، سلام على القاسم بن الحسن، سلام على القاسم بن الحسن، سلام على القاسم بن الحسن، سلام على القاسم بن الحسن. حنت رملة حينما أرجعوه، فذكرتنا حين مات أبوك، ستنعى على فقدك الناعيات، كما في ثرى نينوى ودعوك، سلام على القاسم بن الحسن، سلام على القاسم بن الحسن، سلام على القاسم بن الحسن، سلام على القاسم بن الحسن. أمين حسين ونعم الأمير، أميري حسين ونعم الأمير، سرور فؤاد البشير النذير، علي وفاطمة والدا، فهل تعلمون له من نظير؟ أميري حسين ونعم الأمير، سرور فؤاد البشير النذير، علي وفاطمة والدا، فهل تعلمون له من نظير؟ سلام على القاسم بن الحسن، سلام على القاسم بن الحسن، سلام على القاسم بن الحسن، سلام على ساكن الكربلاء، سلام على دينة المرتضى، سلام عليك صراط الهدى، حسين يا حسين، حسين يا حسين، سلام عليك ذبيح القفا، سلام عليك مجيب الدعاء، سلام على سيد الأتقياء، حسين يا حسين، سلام على ساكن الكربلاء، سلام على دينة المرتضى، سلام عليك صراط الهدى، حسين يا حسين يا حسين، سلام عليك ذبيح القفا، سلام عليك مجيب الدعاء، سلام على سيد الأتقياء، حسين يا حسين، بقلبي يا حسين، بعقلي يا حسين، بروحي وبدمي أنت ساكن يا حسين، قسم بالمصطفى قسم بالمرتضى، تبقى فوق رأسي تاج ليوم اللقاء، حبيبي يا حسين، حبيبي يا حسين، حبيبي يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين، حبيبي يا حسين، حبيبي يا حسين، حبيبي يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين، سلام على ساكن الكربلاء، سلام على دينة المرتضى، سلام عليك صراط الهدى، حسين يا حسين، حسين سلام عليك ذبيح القفا، سلام عليك مجيب الدعاء، سلام على سيد الأتقياء، حسين يا حسين، بقلبي يا حسين، بعقلي يا حسين، بروحي وبدمي أنت ساكن يا حسين، قسم بالمصطفى قسم بالمرتضى، تبقى فوق رأسي تاج ليوم اللقاء، حبيبي يا حسين، حبيبي يا حسين، حبيبي يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين، سلام على القاسم بن الحسن، 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 سلام على القاسم بن الحسن. أحسنتم مأجورين، صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الحجة جميعا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا قائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصل اللهم على محمد وآله الطاهرين. صلى الله عليه وسلم.